I'd like to tell you about the oral history project I'm involved in. 16 years ago, I interviewed my parents on video to capture their stories because knowing that we would lose them someday, I wanted my family to be able to see and hear them just like they were when they were in their prime. My hope is that in my time with you today, I can help you envision the value of undertaking such an endeavor for your loved ones. I've provided a handout with tips on how you can capture and preserve your family's history. Additionally, I will show you excerpts from a project I completed earlier this year. But first, some background on my family. My dad was an Assemblies of God pastor in Mexico. He was called to pastor a church in Lubbock in 1959, and that's how our family immigrated to the U.S. At the time, my father was 40, my mother was 35, and they had 8 children, ages 2 to 16. 2 more children were born in Lubbock, making it a family of 10. While no one in the family spoke English when we moved to Lubbock, all adapted to the new environment successfully. In fact, the child that was 2 years old when we immigrated is currently the superintendent of Dallas ISD, Dr. Michael Hinojosa. When I interviewed them, my father was 82, my mother was 77. He lived 5 more years. She lived 14 more. In the interviews, my parents gave a firsthand account of their lives from childhood through their 70s, including their role as pastors and parents. I also recorded Mom cooking our favorite foods, including her famous tamales, which I think some of you in this room have had. Altogether, I have 25 hours of footage of my parents. Our family makes good use of this footage. We watch excerpts at family gatherings, particularly if we're marking milestones in our family's history. Next year, we're going to mark Dad's 100th birthday. And now their descendants who were too young to remember them, or who were born after they died, can meet their great-grandparents, 2 extraordinary individuals who devoted their lives to the ministry and who changed the trajectory of our lives by bringing us to this country. In the last recorded interview, my father urged me to keep this project going. At this point, my older siblings are now in their 70s, nearing the age of our parents at the time I recorded those interviews. So now I've undertaken the task of documenting the stories of each of the 10 Hinojosa children. Last December, I recorded a 6-hour interview with Ana, my oldest sibling. After viewing the footage numerous times, I selected 30 minutes of clips to create a documentary that highlights significant events in her life. I also created a slideshow of 200 photos and documents. In June, we held our annual Hinojosa family reunion in which we celebrated Ana's 75th birthday. The first showing of the documentary and the slideshow was at this event. There were 52 people in attendance, including Ana's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Today, I'll show you a part of the slideshow that deals with our life in Mexico. Then I'll show you excerpts from the documentary that deals with Ana's education and career. I'll also include a short clip of an interview from the 2001 interview where I interviewed my parents, and they talk about Ana as a child. And I did happen to capture footage of them talking about each of the 10 of us. The portion of the interview is in Spanish, so I'll just show you a few seconds, but I just want to illustrate how you can include multiple generations to tell the person's story. So let's take a look, and I'll identify a few things as we go along. That's my mother. That was my father in the earlier photo, the year Ana was born. These are my parents in 1947. Our maternal grandmother. These are our paternal grandparents. the 4 oldest siblings. That bicycle was a gift to my dad. He rode on that to the countryside to minister to people. And here, number 6. I'm number 6. By this time, we were in Nuevo Laredo. I'm still number 6, but there were more to come. And this is Ana's 6th grade report card. And now we're going to get into the clips of her interview. This is Ana at 15, at 30, and at 75.
We went to Escuela Comercial.
And this was his vocational school?
Yes, it was all business.
Okay. So about what age were you and Mimi when you started there?
Well, I graduated at 13. She graduated at 12.
She's talking about graduation from
So our
elementary
birthdays
school.
being in June, then we started school in September. Start business school, which we took typing, shorthand, bookkeeping, filing, all the business classes. And of course, we had an English class. We went to school half a day, 5 days a week. And
Now, if you had stayed in Mexico, what would you have, how many more years, because you went to that business school for several years, right?
we went to business school for 3 years and graduated.
Oh, you did graduate from that.
Yes, we graduated, both of us.
And the youngest in that one is my brother Michael, the superintendent.
By living in the United States, you cannot drop out of school before you're 17 years of age. So I was 16 and a half when school started. Well, we arrived there in February. So Daddy enrolled us in school as he was, demanding of him to enroll us in school. Mimi was 15 and a half, I was 16 and a half, and we were enrolled in the 8th grade. There was a Spanish-speaking person seated either in front of me or behind me in class, same as Mimi's. We were in the same rooms, and it was difficult to communicate because they didn't even speak the way we spoke. And then here you have the teacher trying, explaining or giving instructions. And but somehow we managed. And I remember a time when the math teacher was trying to start a square root problem on the board, and he was having difficulty starting. I raised my hand, and he says, what did I need? And I said, I could go do that problem. So I went to the board and did the square root problem, and it was correct. And I was applauded by the whole classroom because, he was somebody that didn't speak the language, but, math is universal. So if you can do math in Spanish, you can do it in English. and I was voted the most likely to succeed. And that was a good experience, and so we finished school in May, and being that I was the oldest, and then I would already be 17. My dad said, he needed for me to help him by going to work. When I was working at the laundry, I said, this life is not for me. I have to do something about it.
She taught herself English. And this is a shortcut to tell you about all her jobs.
After this time, I had become certified tax assessor collector for the city of LaPorte, which took 5 years of schooling through different state courses in property tax law to become a certified tax assessor collector. Due to my dad's vision, those 3 years of education in Mexico became very, very handy when we came to the States, and I made very good use of the knowledge that I obtained during those 3 years, because that's where I worked 40 plus years in the United States. And my jobs always got better, and I was able to squeeze in those 60 hours of college in there. That's the only regret I have, that I didn't get a degree in the United States, because I did have my diploma in Mexico, and that I wish I had gotten a degree in probably business, because that was my expertise. That's what I had experienced. And when I went to college, I learned the theory of what I practiced working at the CPA firm. Be happy, love God, count on God, let Him be your guide, and be persistent for the goals you have in life. Education comes in different forms. Go for it. Don't ever give up, because the rewards are at the end of those efforts.
Okay, now you're going to see a clip of the interview I did of my parents in 2001.
¿Dónde nació Ana?
It's my dad and my mom.
En
Padilla.
Padilla, Tamaulipas, México.
Antiguo Padilla.
¿Y la fecha?
Es el 11 de junio de 1942.
Well, of course, there's much more to Ana's life. She married at 19, had her first child at 20. That child was born prematurely. Her second child at 21. Her third child at 22. And sadly, that child died 5 months later of SIDS. She had her fourth child at 25. Ana has faced many challenges in her life, but through it all, she has displayed perseverance, resilience, and grace. She's an amazing woman. And now we can be assured that her descendants will get to hear her story in her own words for generations to come. I encourage you to consider undertaking this project to document the lives of your loved ones. Your family will so thank you for it. For me, this endeavor has been fulfilling and inspiring. Should you want to pursue this type of project, I've given you a handout that gives you tips on how you can get started. And I have my contact information on there in case you'd like to ask me questions. Thank you so much.